What? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a wonderful another Sunday morning with these three guys right here on your screen. Yes, I changed my voice. I'm in that type of mood today. Hello, people. Good morning. I feel like I've been up for since 4 o'clock this morning, so I have like that. I want to do this like reminiscence of Robin Williams doing "Good Morning Vietnam" on the radio like he did. Um, but I digress. I didn't want to, destroy your eardrums with my beautiful baritone voice here.
And my question is, who are you going to call out to? Because we're not calling out to Vietnam. I
I
mean, we could
don't
have somebody
know.
listening in Vietnam. We don't know.
I would have,
Good morning, England.
I, I would have, I would have, I don't know, I would have made some shit up probably.
But it's not morning in England anymore.
I know.
It's like
They're
three
only a couple
in the
hours ahead of us.
afternoon there now.
I could have did some crazy good morning US of A something or other, but
Ooh, then we could have started the USA chant because that's where we live. So we got to chant our hometown, home country.
Only if I had a 2x4 over my shoulder.
Ho!
the thumbs up.
You ever notice that Hacksaw Jim Duggan always said that shit out of the side of his face? He never said
Yeah.
it out of the
Oh,
yeah, it was never like it was always like it's like this side of his face didn't work when he said oh. Like
oh,
okay.
it was.
I think it was like a way to kind of make himself, kind of look goofier. That was kind of the point. It was like
He didn't really have to try. He was always kind of a
yeah, I
goofy
know,
looking
but
dude.
it was supposed to be like it was supposed to be like an endearing type of goofiness, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, I
like, hey, look, I
understand.
look just like you, America. Slap in the face.
I'm a southern redneck, just like y'all. Thumbs up.
Except he wasn't Southern. He was from Glen Falls, New York.
I know. He was a northerner.
But I mean,
Oh,
he had made his bones, as it were, in Mid South. So,
yes, yes. Very true. Very true.
Oh, so
So,
Joe, do you want to
which
go
is
on
as
your rant,
Southern a territory as you can get. So,
or can we talk a little bit? I know we don't. I know we said before we came on we weren't really going to talk much wrestling because none of us
I
have
was
probably
really
really
paying
watched
much
much
attention
wrestling.
to it this week. Yeah.
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
Go
but
ahead.
I think we could talk something wrestling oriented because
Oh,
I've been catching up on the Dark Side of the Ring episodes that I have not seen.
finally, Pat. He is catching up.
It only took
A
him.
I forget. I always forget. Like through Xfinity, you
couple
can
years late there,
watch.
buddy.
You can watch the old episodes of it as long as it's like a certain time has passed. You can go back and watch old episodes of things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well,
So
technically they're
Stop,
all
stop for a
old
second.
now,
Stop,
but
stop for a second. So you are just now finding your on-demand service for Xfinity.
well, here's the thing. It's not my Xfinity. I borrow it from my brother, so I didn't know it had this feature.
so Xfinity, if you're listening,
You don't know who I am, and you don't know my brother.
I will cut you some slack on that one. Okay, okay, okay. Oh,
yeah, my parents mooch off of half of my streaming services. So,
Yeah. So what
dare
shows did
they
I
do stuff
watch?
like that?
I got up through. Um, I think I was watching. I did not finish yet the one about Harley Race.
No, Pat, he's gonna make me remember all this shit now.
yeah, I know. It's been these episodes were all on back in like March and April or whatever it was. So yeah.
I'm getting too old for this shit to remember that far back. Oh
Well,
man.
that's what I do. I'm
Uh,
just like that. Just wait, I'm gonna start watching Loki, and then I'm gonna make you guys have to remember Loki.
oh, I still have. Listen, I will say I have not watched Agatha yet. I need to.
I haven't, and I'm not sure if I'm going to.
There's things that I've read. Well, I guess semi spoilers. There's things that I read that I kind of want to watch now to see how they go about it and things of that nature. So I think either over I'm off the week of Thanksgiving and I'm off a week and a couple days for Christmas. So those that at some point during one of those holidays, I will be catching up on some episodes of Agatha, and I feel like there's something else that was out that I need to catch up on. I can't remember at this time.
Penguin.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
one. I
that's
haven't
the other
started
one I
watching that
have.
yet.
I have not watched an episode of that yet either. So
Yeah,
those will be the two.
that ended last week, so you can binge that whole show now.
Yes, yes. I mean, there is some anime that started up that had some new seasons that I've been trying to um currently watch as well. And then every Sunday night, my Yellowstone show has come back on TV for its final season or second half of the final season, however you want to put it. So, and the final season of Superman and Lois and the CW is going on right now. So I'm kind of trying to keep up with that one as well. That's on Mondays. But yeah, not really much of a TV watcher per se these days. Do more streaming service stuff, and the TV is regulated to just like local news, weather, and things of that nature, and a couple other random shows that I like to watch, like The Voice, because I like my music and singing competitions. But yeah, and today is Sunday. I am going to make some chili later on, and
Ooh,
we'll watch some football.
yeah. Speaking of anime, One Piece. I know you've watched that, right? One Piece before. You've watched that, Joe.
Correct. Yep.
So, Netflix keeps on putting out seasons as they get the dubbed seasons, which I'm very glad because randomly they put out a season that was like 5 or 6 seasons ahead of it. It would jump from episode 5 something to episode 1000 something. I'm like, what the hell? Like we're missing like 500 some episodes here. What the hell has just happened?
Yeah.
And of course, it wasn't the dub version. It's in,
Subtitles,
yeah. I'm like, what the
the
hell?
subs.
Like you jerks, you're gonna skip X amount of seasons and give me a season that I can't even listen to. Like
Yeah.
I know it's not, we're getting privileged to be able to have it dubbed into English for us,
Mhm.
but it's like, that's nice. So
I mean,
they
it
finally
is
started giving these seasons that go
okay.
back to
Proper.
back. So yeah, proper
Proper order.
seasons. So eventually we'll catch up to that seasons as like X amount of seasons ahead, and then probably they'll have the dub version for that year.
Yeah, kind of like, Dragon Ball, they kind of have a season called Dragon Ball Diama, and
Daime or something like yeah.
Diame or whatever, however you say it.
Yeah,
So,
I can't watch that either. I
um,
don't like reading my shows.
yes, and it's like, when it comes out in Japan, it comes out over here, and it's on Netflix too, which is cool. But, they haven't dubbed it yet. It's still in the process. So we're still getting the subs, which I've watched so much anime over the years that I'm used to the subs because as I'm like I hear them speak in Japanese and I read it, but as I'm reading it, the the dub voices are in my
Are
head.
in your head.
So I'm hearing like Goku like speak as Goku in my head as I'm reading it, but I hear the Japanese version on the screen. It's kind of
He
weird like
hears
that, but
voices in his head.
yes, just like Randy Orton does.
Um, but it was really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joe.
No, you're good.
Okay. They do a One Piece episode, and it includes Dragon Ball,
Yes,
and I don't know what the other show is because I've never seen it.
I
But
forget. That was like episode 50. Was it 501
no,
or
probably
is
like
it
601.
or something? Yeah. I know that's an episode that people in the United States have been clamoring to see because that episode is only something where you're able to kind of like find it online or it was like in Japan only or some jazz like that.
Yeah, it was. If I go to Netflix, I'll tell you because I just watched that episode. I was like, "What the hell?" That's like Goku and them are in this episode. I'm like, "This is crazy."
Yeah.
And they all
Yeah.
happen to know each other. They're like, da, da. And they had a big tournament where they, Goku and Luffy and whoever the other main character from that other show was, they all tie in it. And of course, Mr. Satan, which I think it's funny that it's Mr. Satan because I never realized that it was Mr. Satan. I thought it was Mr. Satin. Like
No,
I'm
it's
like,
Mr.
there's no
Satan.
way they're calling him Satan. Like
Yes.
no way they're calling him the devil. Yeah, they are. I was like, okay, never mind.
Yes, it's Mr. Satan.
Who could be responsible for that? Could it be Satan?
Satan himself.
So let me.
Yeah, I need to watch that episode. Definitely. I heard it's a cool episode.
Yeah, 590.
590.
Yeah,
Okay.
Heroes. It's history's strongest collaboration with Galton of the Sea.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes. That's what I gotta
Toriko.
watch.
Showdown with
Mhm.
Luffy, Toriko, and Goku.
Yep. Yeah,
I don't know who
that's
Toriko is. I don't know what show that's from. Somebody in the
uh
comments can probably let us know.
I've watched that. I forget off the top of my head. That's not one. That's not an anime I was able to really get into. Um, but yes, yes. Okay, so back. We're getting off. We always get off track, but that's just what we do. Dark Side of the Ring. You said you did watch the Harley Race one, or you did not
Yes, I
yet?
did watch the Harley Race.
Ah,
I actually
yes.
looked at it. I watched the last episode I watched was episode 6, Chris Colt, which was freaking disturbing as all hell.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, the Chris Colt one, I think, from the most recent season that they did, which was again last spring, was probably the most interesting one to me because out of everything that they did, he was the one that I knew nothing about.
Yeah, no, I had no idea who that guy was.
I knew very little
So,
about him. I knew
yeah,
some stuff in
so
there, but not a lot. The rest of it, didn't know at all.
yeah, so he had dare I say a fascinating story.
Mm,
Yeah, and it's one of those things like, he was always I guess I did not realize there were so many men in wrestling that were, I'm going to try and be as politically correct here as possible, that were gay or homosexual, whatever term is more appropriate. But evidently, it's not uncommon. Like there is a lot more of that going on than, especially back in the day, than was known. You know, but he was open about it from the very start. Like there was no, he didn't try and ever hide who he was, which I give him a lot of credit for because back in that day, I mean, wrestlers were supposed to be men, like, manly men.
you would get a lot of shit in the locker room for sure.
But he was a manly man, but he was gay.
Yeah,
I think the
very.
most disturbing part of that episode for me was one, he really wanted to die like Janis Joplin by the time he was 27, which he did not. Um, and he did those weird porno movies. And they interviewed the guy that did them, and it I don't care if you do that. Like you're to each their own. You want to do
Yeah.
that, that's fine. It was what was weird is the concept of it. It was just that person. Like from what I got from the description that they gave was just that person talking and being manly, and no sexual stuff in it. Like in regards to the activity that would go on. I'm like, that's odd. Like that just struck me as very odd.
Different. I will say, yeah. That interesting episode. Definitely interesting episode. It was a lot to wrap your brain around in regards to
Hmm.
him and his career and the stuff he went through.
Man, I'm trying to think of some of the like he. And then I'm the one that most recently watched this episode, and I can't even remember it all because it was just so much. There was so much they went over in that episode. Like his life was just all over the place. Like how who was he riding with? Um, that they beat the they beat the crap out of him. Like they got out of the car and they beat the crap. The one guy that beat the crap out of him was his tag team partner. They were doing a 3-man tag team partner. And the one guy they interviewed was Brian. His name was Brian something, and he was playing his brother. He was Brian Colt. And the other guy they were riding with was Mike something. I can't remember his exact name, but they were riding with him, and he just Chris Colt just hauled off and punched him in the face, And he's like, "That's gonna be the last time you do that." And then they pulled the car over, and they got out of the car, and he just whipped it. Just beat the crap out of Chris Colt, and left him there on the side of the road to freaking die. I'm like, "What?" I was like, and he wanted him to run him over. He wanted Brian to run him over. He's like, run him over." He's like, no, like, this is not a good idea. Like, that's
Crazy.
nuts.
All I gotta say is crazy. Just, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with that episode for
So
sure.
the Harley race episode, the thing I get out of that, like watching it, and he had a pretty interesting career. A couple things that came out of it, and we can't substantiate any of it because we can't get his side of the story. But he was a legit tough guy. Like, would mix it with anybody and beat the crap out of pretty much everybody he came into contact with, sounds like. Um, and this is where I say we can't substantiate any of it because we only have his wife's side of the story, or I guess
Yeah.
what would be his ex-wife is he was an abuser, um, you know, and he was kind of an asshole. He was kind of an asshole. I mean, guys respected him because of who he was, but he was legit just kind of an asshole. Um,
Yeah.
so
You will hear good things about him in the wrestling business, but outside the wrestling business, not so much.
yeah, like I,
Which, you know,
it's interesting.
there's more wrestlers like that than sometimes we think of that are,
Yeah, and I don't think we hear it so much anymore
because
about
we all know
unless it's
because
just like
everything's out, everything is
yeah,
open and out there. You know what I mean? Back
just
in the day, not
because
so
yeah,
much.
exactly. Like because things are so out there, like if somebody's a jerk or an a-hole, we learn about it real quick, and then that person kind of like loses face with most companies, and they don't want to employ them. Where back in the day when everything was kayfabed, you could be a butthole to anybody, and if as long as you drew money, it didn't matter. Like you were going to get a job because promoters wanted to bring money in because they cared about what happened in the ring than what happened backstage. They would
Mhm.
get rid of the talent that's not bringing in the money and say, okay, well, we won't have a problem for for the good talent. The people that are bringing in the money, we'll bring, we won't employ you anymore. We won't bring you back, kind of thing. And it's kind of crazy that would happen, but it's the way the world worked back there in wrestling. It was money, 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 and it still is money, 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 but it's a different
Yeah.
environment now because they want I shouldn't say everybody to be happy, but they want a better locker room and atmosphere for all the wrestlers and
The
not
way they
just the
make
ones that are the
the
highlights.
way for them to make money now is different than how they had to make money back then too.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of reminded, it's kind of funny. I saw, I was watching a YouTube video from one of the people I follow. And then when I was done watching the video, I went back into the main feed and I saw it was like two clips of Randy Macho Man Savage. He was doing some interviews back in the 80s. One was in the 80s and one was in the 90s. It was a clip of both where they were asked some lady, and it was weird because they didn't show the full screen. They were just kind of showing Randy Savage himself. So some lady had asked them, was like, isn't wrestling fake? You guys already know who's going to win and stuff like that. So they were asking, he's like, what do you mean it's fake? He goes, do you think I would get into a ring and make myself look silly and stupid if it was fake? He was like, no. He goes, I'm here to make money and I'm not going to put myself in a position like that. He goes, the higher to the top you get, the more money you make. And like he went a little thing was kind of interesting. He had like the serious like face going on in regards to it. So I kind of found it was kind of interesting because I've never seen that interview, or I don't even know what show it was on. It was very a weird edit regards to that footage. But then there was one in the 90s where he's the late 90s because he was wearing his NWO Macho Man outfit. and he was on some talk show, and I've never seen this guy before. So he was asking him about it being fake and the outcome, and he's like, "No," and this was funny because Randy was actually very humorous. He was like, every time the guy would ask him something, he would like crack a joke about it. He was like, "Yeah, I do know the outcome." He goes, "I win every match because I'm Randy Macho Man Savage." He goes, "Even if they think they're gonna lose, well, they got another thing coming because once they get in the ring, I'm gonna put them out and I'm gonna get the win." And he it was all kinds of weird stuff going on with that interview. I was like, dude, did you smoke a blunt? Because you're way happier than you normally are when you do interviews like this. It was just kind of funny. It was like seeing an old 80s Macho Man and then a late 90s Macho Man, two different types of styles. And the way he was talking to the responding to the questions and whatnot. I like finding some of that old stuff. I think it's kind of cool to watch some of those interviews, just like when was it Sting and Piper and who else was on? Um, what was that? The Donahue? Was it Donahue? I think it was. I think Donahue at one time had a bunch of pro wrestlers on his show asking about how it works and all that, and you could see the anger in their faces being on that show, having to answer these questions in regards to it. Oh, definitely different times, for sure. Uh-oh, Jeremy's kid must be making a ton of stuff going on over there. He's making us look at that Eagles logo again. I know it makes you puke inside there, doesn't it, Pat? It makes you just feel a little sick to the stomach, huh?
Stop giving me poop, all right? I had to finish my breakfast. I was hungry. And then my son asked me a question. Trying to be more respectful of our audience.
All I'm hearing are excuses.
That's right, they are. So, let's talk about Pat's favorite character of all time, Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yeah, brother.
Hey, he was strutting and cutting, man.
So, if you watch this episode and you don't know anything about wrestling, I I would definitely assume that you will come out of this episode and be like, "Wow, Bruce the Barber Beefcake only got to where he was because of Hulk Hogan." That's the way they painted the picture for this. I was like, "Man, that is pretty crappy." And I'm not going to say that he didn't get a lot of opportunities because of Hogan. And if Hogan's a true friend, then that's something you do. Like, hey, this guy's talented. Let's bring him in. Let's do something with him. He's a good guy to work with, blah, blah, blah. I would do that for any of my friends, regardless of the industry. You know, if you guys were, down and out and needed help, needed a job. So the fact that Hogan did that is cool. Cool in my opinion. Like, he was helping out his friend who he knew had talent, who was willing to work. And WCW, I don't care what anybody says, they did him wrong. They just kept on giving him stupid gimmick after stupid, the freaking Zodiac. Like, really? Like, come on. They literally tried to drown him, and that is because, and I truly believe this, and anybody can tell me I'm wrong. Bischoff didn't like him. Bischoff did not like Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
No, he doesn't.
So he drowned him in stupid gimmicks.
No,
and that's fine. And when you hear Bischoff talk, you can tell he does not like Beefcake. Like, he was like, I had to employ this guy because Hogan said so. No, you didn't have to. Like, you chose to because you were friends with Hulk also. So you chose to take Hulk and his judgment of another person that he knew and employed him.
It's
and
not
then
like
you shit on him.
Yeah, it's not like Beefcake couldn't work. He could put on a good match. He was able to work in the ring to do what you needed to do to get people over, so on and so on.
Yeah.
Just the gimmicks were just ridiculous. In regards to how he was set up. I mean, yeah, he was probably getting paid a good amount, good money to be an enhancement talent in some of those gimmicks that he did. I think his best gimmick was when he when he had like the biker look with the long hair and the headband, and he was all jacked up on steroids and all that shit.
Oh yeah, when he came back, when he got ripped.
Yeah,
he came back. I didn't even realize.
The Disciple.
Even watching that.
Yeah, the Disciple.
Yeah, the Disciple. Terrible name for a character, the Disciple.
Yeah.
But
When I hear the disciple and the way his gimmick looked, it doesn't go together. Like those, it doesn't go like
Yeah,
that's.
but
But
I didn't even realize that was Beefcake. Even watching it during the Beefcake episode, I was like, "That's Beefcake." Like his face didn't even look like the normal Beefcake face. Like I was like, "This dude looks old and nothing like Beefcake." Because Beefcake always had a very, I don't want to say very, he always had a full face.
yeah,
Like all
yeah,
his, not because he was heavy, just because that's the way his face was built. Like, but when he cut, all that facial fullness just left. Like it was gone. So he looked completely different.
yeah. I don't.
But
Can
yeah,
you believe that he's making comments about Brutus's face?
I know.
speaking about that, that was crazy to hear too. Like I
The
didn't know that
story of how
happened.
that happens is
Yeah,
insane.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like, oh, we were having fun, and then they pressured my buddy into going on another boat ride. He didn't want to really do it, but he was tired of hearing about it, and they hooked this lady up, and they didn't have the right wind, so she wasn't even in the air, so they were gonna drag her, which would have ended up probably freaking terrible to begin with because they were holding the chute. She probably was gonna face plant into the water, so it was probably not that it was a good thing that it happened to Beefcake, but it was probably the world working in its mysterious way to say this is not a good idea.
Yeah,
So
she would have been hurt in some manner, and then yeah, there would have been more of a shitstorm.
yeah. But yeah, he gets a knee right to the middle of his freaking face and explodes this part of his face is just essentially explodes on the inside. I was like, Jesus, what a
Yeah,
way
I
to get
was.
injured.
I mean, I knew details of it from like back when it first happened and everything. I remembered hearing. I had remembered hearing about it. I mean, because that's the other funny thing too. I don't remember how much they cover in the documentary, but he lost like a lot of opportunities. Like he wrestled Honky Tonk Man for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 4, and then he either won by count out or DQ, so he didn't win the title. But then they were going to have the rematch at SummerSlam that year, but something happened where he couldn't wrestle, and so that's where they put the Warrior in the spot, and Warrior won the title, of course. Then in 1990, Warrior beats Hogan at WrestleMania to win the WWF Championship, and he essentially has to forfeit then the Intercontinental title. They hold the Intercontinental title tournament, and Mr. Perfect wins it. Well, Beefcake had beaten Mr. Perfect at WrestleMania, gave Perfect his first pinfall loss since he had joined WWF. So the plan was to do Beefcake against Perfect for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam. I'm not saying Beefcake would have won. I think they said maybe he would have won, but they at least would have had the intrigue going into the match about, oh, I just beat you at WrestleMania, so of course I'm going to take that title from you, blah, blah, blah. But the accident happens, and that's when
Yeah,
they brought Kerry Von Erich in, who did win the title for Mr. Perfect at that year's SummerSlam, and he held it for a few months before losing it back to Perfect. But yeah, it was like there was always like some bad timing involved with Brutus there and everything. And obviously, but yeah, it's like when they were recounting, when I remember watching that episode, when they were recounting the details of the accident and like fuller detail than I had ever heard before.
hmm
I was getting sick listening to it. Like I was definitely feeling like, ooh, it is
But yeah,
totally
the fact that he was
horrific.
holding the top part of his mouth up so
Yeah,
it didn't fall, I'm like,
I
oh,
can't,
insane,
I can't even imagine.
insane.
That's like as bad as shit that could happen to you in like war and shit. Like holding yourself together and shit. It's like
Yeah,
not that it's a direct correlation. It's like I always remember the scene from, the Omaha beach landing and Saving Private Ryan with one guy like literally trying to hold his fucking guts in and shit. It's like how the hell do you even try to do something like that? You know?
yeah. I don't think he need to go into the details of where he's like, yeah, they cut me here to here, and then they peeled my head back. I was like, oh, really? Like, thanks,
When
man.
you think
There's a
about it, I
visual I
mean,
don't need.
when you think about it, I mean, we've had 35 years pretty much now of like advancements in medical technology and shit. But it's like to be able to do what they did even then, it's kind of mind-boggling that they were ever able to really kind of like save his face, save what he looked like. And then the fact that he went back to wrestle for several years is really just as astounding. So
Well, yeah,
yes.
he had a titanium head.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
He's now
I mean,
Wolverine. He had a Wolverine head.
well, yeah, it's like when
He's
he
made out of
first,
metal.
like, like after he like recovered, of course, they brought him back with the barbershop segment
Yeah, and I didn't even
for,
realize that he had gone away. Like I knew he wasn't there anymore, but this is once again, I've
Mhm.
always watched wrestling sporadically throughout my years. It's really interesting, and I get bored with it, and I get back into it. So this was like one of those times where I forgot Barber wasn't even on TV, but I had started tuning in, and now he's doing the barbershop. But I look back and I'm like, yeah, he wasn't wrestling at that time. He was
No.
Mhm.
just the barbershop.
Yeah, so he did the barbershop for several months when he came back in 91. Of course, that's where like Shawn Michaels, attacked Marty Jannetty, and Marty Jannetty, of course, tried to dive through the window to escape from Shawn Michaels, as Bobby Heenan put it. What an act of cowardism! Cowardism. And then that segment ended when Sid destroyed the set in the build up to the WrestleMania 8 match between Sid and Hogan. And then, Beefcake was gone again for a while because Hogan left after WrestleMania 8. And then he showed back up and it was like early 93. He has a match on Raw. I don't remember if it was against IRS or DiBiase. It was one of the two of them. And they did the whole thing where they were gonna they hit him in the face with IRS's briefcase, and like Jimmy Hart was trying to get them to stop because Jimmy Hart was managing Money Inc. at the time. And that, of course, led to the WrestleMania 9 match where Hogan came back and it was Hogan and Beefcake with Jimmy Hart now in their corner against Money Inc. for the tag titles. And, Beefcake wore that really weird mask for most of that match,
Yes,
which was
yes.
like this thick and like metal. Because they did the thing where like I remember one of the better spots in the match was where DiBiase did like a second rope, like double axe handle. And of course, when he hits him in the face, he starts, DiBiase with that classic, like DiBiase overselling.
Oh, my hands, my
Yeah.
hands.
But yeah, again, the fact that he ever was ever able to come back and wrestle is pretty fucking incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. I think as time went on, you know, after the WWE run, you know, Beefcake personalized got himself into a rut. I'll just say that. And then, you know, Hogan was his friend, but Bischoff's take on it, he said it multiple times on his podcast that he just thought he was mooching off of Hogan to keep getting a paycheck when he really, in Bischoff's eyes, maybe didn't really think he deserved it. But, you know, and that's one of the things that Bischoff's always said about Hogan too, was his downside is he is loyal to his friends, his close friends. Um,
Which all of a sudden now he's not friends with Beefcake,
Right. I
yeah,
was
which
gonna
is
say, but
interesting.
yes,
then
yeah.
And
So,
evidently has something to do with his wife because his wife sticks up for Beefcake. And maybe not in the best manner possibly, but evidently Hogan doesn't. My take would be this. Hogan doesn't like strong women. Women that are willing to speak up and not take shit from people. Um, because it maybe reminds him of his ex-wife, when she finally stood up for herself. I know that's
you
kind of
know,
terrible, but anyways,
I mean,
regardless.
it could be part of it, might not be part of it. I mean, another thing too is like maybe, Hogan probably through some of the personal shit Hogan was going through, maybe he realized that some of his friends were just mooching off of him. You know what I mean? And or was cutting ties with them or something happened. I don't know the full details between him. Supposedly they're kosher these days, I guess, but shit happens, yeah, in
well,
regards to it.
it's funny we're talking about this now because I think it was just in this past week I saw a thing where Beefcake was being interviewed by somebody. I don't know if it was new or if it was like older, but they were making reference about like why he and Hogan aren't supposedly such good friends anymore. And I guess it was something that had been rumored, but I don't know if it had been like anybody had ever really actually confirmed it. But Beefcake said, yeah, there was like an incident a few years ago. We were hanging out or whatever, and he and Hogan and my wife were in like the same room at the same time, and she comes back and she's like, I want to leave. And according to what Beefcake said his wife told him is that Hogan was into like swapping at the time. and started.
That must have been when he was with his ex-wife Linda, though, because that was
Nah, they were saying it wasn't that long ago. So
because I don't think his new wife is into that. She's very
I
church
think this
going.
might have been before Hogan was with his new wife.
So
I
that
think
must have
this
been
was,
the other. That
He
must
must have
have
got
yeah.
been
that from Bubba the Love Sponge.
that
Oh
must have been the
God.
other young wife that he had after Linda,
Yeah,
which only lasted
I think that's what it was. But so like so
because
basically,
I heard a rumor she was into that shit.
yeah, so the story here was that Beefcake's wife rejected Hogan's advances, and then Hogan said to Beefcake, I don't want her to come around anymore. You can come around, but she can't. What the fuck kind of a fucking ultimatum is that? You can come, but your wife can't? I'm pretty sure a guy's gonna stick with his wife.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I mean, at least
The
he should. If he
Beefcake
doesn't,
said that to
then
Hogan, or Hogan said that to Beefcake.
Hogan
Hogan
said
said
that
that
to
to be
Beefcake. You
Beefcake.
can come around, but your wife can't.
I can see Hogan saying that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these days, yeah, we definitely can. Oh, for sure. Listen, I understand people go through dark times and whatnot, and some are darker than the others, but you still have to take responsibility for your actions and what you did during those times as well. 100%.
Yeah, it's but out of all the episodes like that I've watched, um, I should say this: all the episodes I've had a chance to watch, I found them all interesting as far as like some of the stuff that I didn't know because I'm not a historian of wrestling. Like I don't not like like you guys and able to remember and read about stuff and
Yeah.
that. But I found a lot of it interesting, especially like the guys that wrestled before the time that I started watching. Like the Terry Gordy episode, I thought was really cool too. I didn't realize that he
Yeah.
was such a big. I thought because everything that I had seen, I thought he was only famous because of the work that he did as a Freebird. And to find out in that episode, he was a very well known wrestler way before he was a Freebird. Like
Hmm.
and continued on after that. Now, of course, unfortunately with Terry Gordy, he had that thing that happened on the plane where he was essentially sounds like he was dead, for X amount of minutes.
Yeah,
And
he had, I think what they basically called was a drug-induced stroke.
yeah,
And because they were on a plane, they couldn't get a medical attention quickly enough. So
yeah,
it
Yeah.
so
it, it fucked him up permanently, brain-wise.
yes, so it was kind of creepy, in my opinion, to have them show the clips of when he was doing interviews and stuff after that happened, because
He's not all there.
he didn't look like he was present at any point in time in any of those interviews, struggled to
Yeah.
make sentences and put thoughts together. Like it
He
was really sad.
he had no recall. He couldn't really remember like old stories to tell. And what was sad about it too, because you talk about, yeah, he because he also he became established as a wrestler at a very young age, like when he was still a teenager,
Yeah, I think
because he was so huge.
14.
Yeah.
Was it 14? Yeah, 14.
Yeah, when the Freebird started, he was only like 21 or 22. He was still like ridiculously young. He looked
Yeah.
older, but he was ridiculously young. And of course, the Freebirds went toward up, and he had, and supposedly one of the reasons why the Freebirds never like had more than a really brief cup of coffee in WWF. Some would say it's because, oh, they were wild and out of control, and they could very well have been. But some people have said Vince took a look at Gordy and said, "Ooh, monster heel," and wanted to split them up. And they were like, "No, we ain't going to be split up." And so they just left because that's when you still could. There were still other
Yeah.
places to work.
They stuck to their
Yeah.
guns and what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and like there was like a Freebird stint that they did. I'll get back. I gotta drop off for a second.
Hmm.
Oh, yes, yes.
But yeah, it was just it was interesting. Like I really and to know that both of his kids wrestle. Like I didn't even know the one kid, the first one, like his son. I didn't even realize that was his son. Like
I
I'm like,
know.
really? This guy was his son? Because
Yep.
Gory, compared to the other wrestlers, he was a pretty big dude.
Hmm.
Like tall and big. And his son was like short. Like real short. I don't want to say real short. He wasn't like, under 5 foot, but compared to Gordy, who is I think like 6'2". I don't even think his son topped out at 6 foot. I don't even think he got that tall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the funny thing. I remember when like the tag team of Jesse and Festus was there in WWE.
Oh God, Jesse and Festus.
And I
I
remember and
remember that.
Festus of course was Luke Gallows. But I remembered hearing that like
He should have stayed playing that character. Luke Gallows should have stayed playing
but
Festus.
like
Fits him.
I remembered hearing that one of them was the son of Terry Gordy, and I assumed it was Festus.
Yeah, because Festus looked like he could have been Terry Gordy's son because he had the same like
Yeah, the
that
same
big
size
large.
and everything. Yeah.
But yeah, to find out it was Jesse, who was like really like that kid.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I was trying to say before I had to drop off was like, like they went back to world class, did the Freebirds at some point, but Michael Hayes didn't. Like there was something going on there. Michael Hayes was working in a different territory. And they tried to do the Freebirds again in world class with Gordy Roberts and Iceman King Parsons, and it wasn't the same because Iceman King Parsons was a decent enough talent and everything, but he didn't have the talking ability that Michael Hayes had. So and that
Mhm.
was always Michael Hayes' biggest contribution to the group, no matter what he might think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Michael Hayes
he
was
was definitely the
never
mouthpiece of that group.
Michael Hayes was never the a tremendous in-ring worker. He just wasn't. But anyway, like and then like they were in WCW for a while and like they kind of alternated between face and heel and there was times where Gordy was with Hayes and Jimmy Garvin doing the Freebirds and then there was times he wasn't because he was going back and forth to Japan a lot. He was huge in Japan.
Yes, he
Well, yeah,
was.
that strongman style that he could wrestle in Japan
Yeah.
fit him like perfectly.
Yeah,
From what
and
they
that,
say, that fit him perfectly as the kind of wrestler he really was.
well, that's also really the type of American wrestler Japanese audiences go for is like the monster guys. That's why Stan Hansen
Yes.
had such a great career in Japan. It's why Hogan was always really popular in Japan. Also because Hogan worked differently in Japan. If you've ever seen any of his
Yes.
Japanese matches,
Night and day. Totally different.
yeah,
You would
yeah,
be
like
like, he
the
was
leg,
able to do that?
yeah,
Yeah.
he did enziguris. Yeah, it's like you
Oh yeah,
imagine
I
doing
saw clips
enziguri.
from his Japanese matches, and it just goes to show you how, not getting off topic here, but how controlling Vince was in
Right.
regards to how he wanted guys to wrestle and present themselves in his company.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that this made Hogan like a Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels level in ring worker. Obviously, he wasn't.
No.
But it's just showing that he could do the moves when he needed to. It's just in WWE, he didn't need to.
Yep.
And this
He
wasn't what he
didn't
booked.
he didn't need to. Vincent wanted him to. He wanted to make him an attraction. And hence why. So listen, hence why a lot of people didn't like, got on John Cena's case too, the 5 moves of doom, because Vince did the same thing to him. He's like, I have my ultimate Hogan in John Cena. So I'm gonna have Cena have matches in this manner. But you do see as time went on when Punk got in there and whatever fucking name you want to call him, Daniel Bryanson was in there, and all those other guys, those smaller guys that were able to do like work and have those more high flying and more moves. Cena had great matches with a lot of those guys. He had to
Yeah.
step up his game. Like he was able to do it, but he was finally able to like, hey, I need to work with these guys, so I'm gonna have to get out of my typical move set to have matches with these guys and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah. Well, you know who else you could throw into that same thing as like Hogan in the 80s and Cena in the 2000s, who was more or less like limited by Vince to work a certain way, but this guy always seems to be forgiven for it, is Austin.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Austin was
he's
definitely
another
always
one.
Austin always definitely did the same kind of stuff. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that he was also obviously severely limited once he had the fucking neck injury, once he got
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
pile
you can
driver
tell
at
a difference in
SummerSlam.
his work, the way he worked after
Yeah,
his
you look
injury.
pre SummerSlam 1997 and post SummerSlam 1997, but still, it's like nobody ever seen. It's like people like in retrospect criticize, oh, Hogan only ever did blah blah blah. But nobody cared at the time, and
No.
nobody cared at the time that Austin was, doing it that way. But nobody's ever in retrospect gone back and said, Austin's matches were kind of shit, because Austin didn't have great matches with everybody. He had great matches with Rock
And Hart and Bret Hart.
and yeah, and Bret Hart, which was also those were all before the neck injury.
Yep.
Um, but he didn't really have great matches with Undertaker. I don't remember too many. He had decent matches with Foley in '98. I don't remember his.
Yeah.
I don't. I can't even remember too many times he actually even had one-on-one matches with Triple H. So he had good matches with Angle in 2001, but I'm gonna give Angle most of the credit for that, especially in 2001.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Angle was carrying most
yeah.
of that.
But back to Terry Gordy, the other thing that he did around like in the late '80s, early '90s, is that he was teaming a lot with Dr. Death Steve Williams,
Hmm.
in
Yep.
both WCW and Japan, and they had a great team name, which I don't remember how much was ever really used. The Miracle Violence Connection.
That's interesting team name.
Yeah, it's so powerful a team name, it's making Joe sneeze.
Miracle Violence.
But yeah, that's just like an awesome team name. But it's like, unfortunately, that was kind of like the last really significant thing that he did. And then, of course, like I said, he had the stroke. And then you fast forward to late 1996. Um, Undertaker and Mankind have been feuding for most of the year, pretty much ever since Mankind came into WWF. And so they're looking to try to transition it away from the Undertaker Mankind feud and do something new. And Michael Hayes, who is by now working for WWF, he was Doc Hendricks on
Yeah.
screen, but he was also like, doing creative behind the scenes. He convinces Vince to give Terry Gordy a job.
Yeah.
And they bring him in as the executioner, where he
And
was like,
I forgot about the executioner. I remember
because it
seeing
was
him.
so brief, because
Yeah.
he like showed up and interfered. I think it was in like the Buried Alive match, and then they had a match. I think it was at like the December '96 pay-per-view. And Gordy's like wearing like a mask, like the hood, like the old medieval executioner. He's got like the big scythe, as it was supposed to be like the thing they used to behead people. But the funny thing is, what I always remember about looking at that, especially because I went through like the rewatch on the thing, several years ago now. It's like I'm looking at him wearing that hood, and I'm saying, I know that's Terry Gordy, and I can't tell that's Terry Gordy. Even with the hood on, his face just looked different. He just didn't look the same. And he looked like, again, he wasn't all there. Now you could argue that might have helped that character a little, but he couldn't deliver in the ring anymore. And like he and Undertaker didn't have a good match. So it ended really quickly. And that's why you probably don't remember it, because again, it was so brief, unfortunately. It just
Yeah. It is one of those things, like, I understand, just like with Hogan, wanting to stay loyal to your friends, wanting to help them when they need help. But sometimes you've got to be able to say, you know what, this is probably not a good idea. And in Terry Gordy's condition, after that, the plane ride that, where he had that, they explained, was probably a drug induced stroke. It wasn't a good idea to continue to try and put him in wrestling rings and allow him to wrestle, because he was either going to hurt himself or hurt somebody else, and not
yeah.
on purpose, just because the mental faculties there were not there to be able to do what he needed to do to be safe and keep the
Yeah, I
peace.
mean, it was much more like that he's risking himself than somebody else.
It's
Um,
just,
because it's like I don't think he would have been like careless or anything. But it's more likely somebody's going to hurt him unintentionally than he's going to hurt somebody else unintentionally. So
yeah, and it's one of those things. It goes back to the mentality of, especially back in that time period when which Gordy started, and a lot of these guys started. You cannot they can't seem to let go of that feeling of being in a wrestling ring and what that
Mhm.
gives them, that maybe they're lacking outside of the wrestling world.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
unfortunate.
look at the older guys who are still going today, whether it's Chris Jericho or Edge or CM Punk or AJ Styles. You know, Cena's having his last run here. The Rock still not really being able to fully step away because his Hollywood career is going to shit. But no, yeah, it's like, and that's why, like, like that's why I think you always see you saw so many wrestlers from the era that when we started watching wrestling in the '80s die young, because they can't step away, they can't find anything else to do. That's
Yeah.
why I have a lot of respect for somebody like Rick Martel, who found a way to step away from wrestling, almost to the point where I think he's done it too well because he supposedly doesn't want to be involved in wrestling anyways, turned down opportunities to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and shit like that. Because he was able to find a career and a life outside of wrestling, which, great. I'm glad he was, but obviously there's so many guys who aren't able to for whatever reason. And, but real quick, back to Hogan and Beefcake, because I've got two different things here.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So this is a story that was published on WrestleZone in July of last year, which was recapping Hogan's appearance on Theo Von's podcast. This is the direct quote from Hogan. He was asked about his falling out with Beefcake.
Ooh, okay.
Another guy I traveled on the road with for 4 years was Brutus Beefcake. Him and I had a falling out. We had a bit of a falling out, so him and I don't even talk anymore. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. It still has a lot to do with the lady he's married to. Nothing really to do with him, so I'll pass. Okay.
Interesting.
And here's a story that was published on ITR Wrestling last week, November 8th. It was Beefcake's side of the story. No, that's not. Recalling his friendship with Hogan. Okay, hold on. In regards to the relationship breaking down, Beefcake recalled the time that Hogan disrespected his wife, effectively ending their friendship there and then. Oh no, this is the direct quote now. Oh no, he hit on my wife in his kitchen with his wife there. They were swapping, doing some weird shit. He's standing in the kitchen at his beach house, and he's telling me and my wife how he likes to lube up his dick with olive oil. No. My wife is from Boston. She don't mince words, and she basically told him where to get off that. She says, I'm only here for one reason. That's Brutus Beefcake. I came because I wanted to meet Terry Bollea, my husband's friend, lifelong friend. That's who I wanted to meet. I don't know or care who Hulk Hogan is at all. I guess his ego was so bruised he couldn't even face her again. So he basically said, Brutus, you're welcome. You can come over, but don't bring your wife. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me, pal. So have a nice
Why
day.
do I feel like I can believe Brutus's story more than Hogan's story?
After that, he had 14 back operations, had both his hips replaced and both his knees replaced. He fell apart, and I was glad I wasn't part of it. Why can you believe Brutus's story more than Hulk's story? Well, that's pretty easy because Hulk lies about everything.
He exaggerates, just like Flair.
No, he doesn't exaggerate. He doesn't exaggerate. He outright lies. He was telling this story. He told this story, and Cornette made fun of him for it.
He does.
About how he was backstage at Wembley Stadium with Michael Jackson and Mr. T, and there was this sick kid who had the smell of death about him, who they found out died during the show. Hogan never worked Wembley Stadium. The only match WWE ever did.
Are you sure? Maybe you don't remember the match.
The only thing WWF ever did at Wembley Stadium was SummerSlam 92, and Hogan wasn't there.
Maybe he was backstage.
With
Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
Yeah, maybe he was. But what I'm saying is he conflated like maybe 8 different stories and put them all together into one that made himself sound good, So just everything that I was going to be the bass player in Metallica. What the fuck else has he said over here? Oh, I wrestled 400 days a year. I wrestled twice in the same day because we crossed over the international date line on a flight, and it just.
A lot of guys wrestled twice in the same day. And not because they crossed the international date line. Anyway, I have a tendency, and not because of Hogan's fabrications, it goes down to the fact that what we know about Hogan, the fact that he was willing to sleep with another man's wife and have no qualms about it. Because he was in a, dark place. I get it. Everybody hits a dark place. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people hit dark places in their life. But there's not a dark place that I'm going to hit where I'm going to think it is okay to sleep with my friend's wife.
Nope.
That is a line. I don't care how dark my days are that I am not going to cross. So the fact that he did that would not surprise me that he would, what is the word I'm looking for? That he would
Proposition
there, yes. Proposition another man's wife to do the dirty.
Well, yeah, here's what the biggest problem with that is, too. One, again, like they said, Hogan was married at the time. It's something that he and his wife were into. If that's what you're into and you find people willing to do it, fine.
Which there are a lot.
Whatever the fuck floats your boat. But he
Not
obviously
sissies.
did not take the time to
Read the room.
ascertain whether or not Beefcake's wife was into that before more or less hitting on her. And again, doing it with his wife present in the room at the time, evidently. Which, okay, so like he's into it, his wife is into it, fine. But don't you kind of need to know that the other person's into it too, or otherwise it becomes that, what is that, like that Snickers commercial?
You're not yourself without a Snickers.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
it's just about how about we like, hey, you want to swap? And they're talking about swapping teams for playing a board game or something. And the one was like, oh yeah, it would be like a one-time thing. You just
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that one. That's hilarious.
yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I mean, again, see, this is the whole problem I have with Hulk Hogan. If you ever, I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but there was a documentary that was on Netflix several years ago that I watched. It was about, ostensibly, it was mostly about Hogan's trial against Gawker, which was funded by Peter Thiel. And then they were drawing the parallels to Trump. And this was like in Trump's like first year in office. So think of all the things that happened since then. But it's like Hogan was there on the stand painfully explaining, I'm Terry Bollea. Hulk Hogan's a character I play. So when I was saying those things, I was playing the character. Like, motherfucker, you obviously don't know where to draw the line between the character and yourself. You're out there all the time as the character. It's like when you go up there on the stage of the fucking Republican National Convention and you tear your shirt off and you're talking about Trumpomania and everything. So you're saying Hulk Hogan's doing that, but you're saying Terry Bollea isn't like that? No, fuck you, okay? This is why I decided not to buy the Hulk Hogan ornament this year.
Oh, they had a
It's
Hulk Hogan
Hogan's a
ornament.
piece of shit. And of course, the funny thing is the two WWE ornaments I have bought in previous years, The Rock and The Undertaker, I'm not sure those are getting hung up this year either.
So I find so what's interesting is if you look at Hogan, who always tries to essentially scapegoat himself out of like any responsibility because he says with the Terry Bollea and Hulk Hogan thing, this is one person and this is another person. It's a character. We know that's a bunch of bullshit because he has embraced being Hulk Hogan all the freaking time. Like
A
pretty
lot
much,
of wrestlers
I don't
do
think
that
anybody
shit.
talks to him as he is Terry Bollea. Like, hey Terry, how you doing? And he probably doesn't answer. Ric Flair, on the other hand, has fully embraced it, and he is Ric Flair. He is always going to be Ric Flair. He lives the Ric Flair lifestyle 100%. You would never catch him. Well, I shouldn't say never. I would assume that you would never hear him say, "Oh no, that's Ric Flair, the character. My name, like Ric Flair's just gonna be like,
I'm Richard Fleer.
yeah." Like,
No,
Hogan does it. Flair's done it. Ultimate Warriors embraced it, and his way about going about it is totally wacko. But
yeah, he's a little off.
Flair is Flair 100% of the time, often to his detriment.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, but there's a lot of wrestlers, especially in that time frame, that live vicariously through their wrestling gimmick more than they should.
Mm-hmm.
Way more than they should. So,
Yeah. Yes. Did you want to go on your rant? You didn't have a chance to
Yes.
rant. Yes.
I
All right.
wanna rant.
Go ahead and rant it up.
Well, I just want to
Just a
say real
second, let me
quick before
preface
you.
it might
this.
not be a great
I just
rant,
want to say real quick before you go on that rant. We said we weren't going to really talk about wrestling, and
no.
But we didn't talk about what's going on in wrestling. We talked about historical wrestling stuff.
Yeah, different
That's
different
more
wrestling.
I'm just saying. I just think it's kind of funny how that turned
All right,
out.
so we're gonna
Yeah,
preface
it was
this a
kind of
little bit.
ironic. We're not talking wrestling, but we talk about that wrestling.
Before
I
we
don't want
started,
to say it was aliens.
but it was
aliens.
aliens. Oh shit.
So before we got started
Yes.
today, Joe told us that he wanted to rant, and he had a very fun story. Possibly, I don't know if it's going to be fun. We're going to find out. It's probably terrible, but we'll listen to it anyways. So here is the rant from Joe.
Yeah, you are going to listen to it because you have no fucking choice. You guys can just like log off, and I'll just be on myself, and I'll still post the shit on the internet, and everyone can decide if they want to listen to me or not. This is how
all I'm saying is that's going to take a lot of effort to like edit us out. Is that worth your time?
it might be.
You just
No, it's
both
too
fall
much.
asleep while he's talking.
So this is how my week went. And it kind of escalated again this morning. So my apartment complex we get an email last week saying, hey, we're repaving the whole apartment complex. We're doing it in 4 phases. Okay, cool. Our phase was this past Wednesday. All right, not a problem. They wanted us to have our vehicles move to another area before 7 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
Now I'm like, all right, I'm already up that early. I got up at 5:15 every morning during the week. Not a problem. Right. So we get an email Tuesday night saying, we still want you to move your cars before 7 o'clock, or your car will be towed, by the way, at the expense of us. And that the previous 2 days, that the other 2 phases are not 100% complete. So, mind you, the paving guys came on Veterans Day to start doing their work. So, which I found interesting. But anywho, phase one was delayed. There was a little rain, so I understand that. So I noticed that they were still working until like 9, 10 o'clock at night, Monday. And Tuesday, they were trying to finish up that and start phase two, which was also delayed. Everything got delayed for multiple reasons. But then they were like, people wanted to, at least when the paving was done, go back and park in their area. But nope, we got another email saying, hey, no cars back in your area until the lines are painted and dried. So the way my apartment complex is set up, to give you like a gist diagram, a picture of it. In the middle of our apartment complex is a pond. There's a water fountain, right?
Oh, very
So
nice.
so my building is actually, if you go to the back of my building to my porch, you could see the pond. It's like literally like 15 feet away. So there's apartment buildings around that, and then there's like little side roads that go out to other buildings, right? People are parking around the ponds. People are like parking in, like, if you look out my window here to the left, um, it shows like a community that's all house, like small, like single family homes next to it. People were driving up there, parking in the street up there, car rows of cars up there. Now it's public parking, public streets, so they can do it. But everyone's cars were all over the place. It was kind of a shit show. And then they weren't letting people like in and out of their buildings because they were doing the paving. So it was a struggle. Even though my car was parked on the other side of the apartment complex, I had to like walking over to my building. Then I had to walk through like different ways to get like go through a wooded area to get to my building. Kind of a shit show into regards to it. But Wednesday, they start doing ours. Okay, fine. All of a sudden, the guys stopped working. So I work from home on Wednesdays. In the afternoon, no one was doing anything. And they were finishing up, which is fine. But they finished up that section and they didn't come back to like our section until like 4 hours later. And then they were doing shit at night. Then Thursday, it rained all day, so they couldn't do anything. So Friday, finally, they came and repaved our whole area and put the lines up Friday night. And the people started moving their cars at like midnight back over to our like front of our building, putting speed bumps up and all that. But so that was kind of a shit show with the paving. But here's the part that kind of sucked. Thursday, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30. Since I live in an apartment, my water tank is in my closet next to my air conditioning unit. All I hear is this weird spouting of water spraying all over the place. Like you're in the backyard and you're like hoses on full blast and you keep pressing the nozzle and water keeps squirting out. I open the closet door, and at the far end, like I said, water heater unit, air conditioner, now these folding doors. I look at the carpet, it's saturated. It's full of it's water. There's like a puddle, big puddle of water. Now, mind you, I have no idea how long this is going on for. I just randomly woke up and heard it at like 4:30 in the morning on Thursday. And my neighbor downstairs could have water leaking down their walls for all I know. So I go in there, and on the water heater tanks, they have a pressure valve that you
Hmm.
can, there's a lever and stuff like that. You can release it. It's just spouting out water like every 2 seconds. And I'm like, holy shit. So I turned the water things off. I got all these towels trying to clean this up. So the office doesn't open till 9. So I call, like, yo, this is what's happening. They're like, oh my God, okay. They said, guys, come over in like 20 minutes. Cool. All day they're working on this. I don't know exactly what they're doing. They're like, oh, you're supposed to have a drip pan under here. And they put like a hose, like an extension onto the valve, right? Certainly you're supposed to. And it's going down to the drip pan. But in the drip pan, they have like, if it overflows, it goes out a little cylinder, and they have it directed towards the closet. So if it overflows, it's going to go right back into the closet and saturate the whole carpet, which I do have stuff on the floor. Unfortunately, it's a closet. So I'm like, okay, this makes zero sense. So all day they're fixing it. And I'm like, Googling it. I'm like, man, the pressure. I was like, because our pressure's been kind of high in our building for my apartment specifically. Turn on the sink and like, boom, it's like flowing out. And one of the causes, it could be a bad valve, but the water tank's only a year old or a year old. It was replaced last year, which really doesn't mean anything. But the water pressure might be too high. And they said they adjusted it, but apparently they didn't, because after they left and fixed everything, I still had a pretty high water pressure. So what happens this morning? 4 o'clock in the morning, again, it's spouting out the water. So I run in there, I hit the valve to see if it'll stop. It stops, but you can hear it wanting to come out. So here I go, turning the water off again. And it's Saturday, so I had to place another work order, and um I called the office and left a voicemail, but it's 11:22 and I have not heard, or no one's knocked on my door. So if they do knock, I will place myself away so you guys could chat in my absence. But yes, besides the parking lot being redone, and it was a fiasco because of rain and whatever the delays and what these guys were doing, to the water heater on Thursday spewing water all over the place and having to clean that shit up, to waking up again this morning almost like the same time with water all over the place. So I have right now, I had, it was, the drip pan was overflowed and it was flowing into the I had a backpack there, like a duffel bag. So it's waterproof, thankfully. So removed everything off the floor. I have towels down there soaking stuff up this morning. So I have the towels in the washer, cleaning them, and I have like um I had a small like floor fan from before. So I went to our storage unit, got the floor fan, brought it back, all that shit. And that's on the floor, just drying it out and waiting for someone to show up to look at this. Cause I'm just like, I literally have no water, can't flush the toilets, can't take a shower, can't do anything. Because I turned all the water off in here. So it's been a fun week with home issues, apartment issues, whatever you want to say. Now I like this apartment. It's an older apartment complex, nice, never had any issues. But the apartment complex has run into issues where it's unable to keep maintenance people here for the past 3 years. So it's like every 3 months I see, a new group of maintenance people. So that has been frustrating because there's other things that have happened in the apartment that need to be fixed, which I ended up doing myself, which unfortunately I know how to do most of the stuff that needed to be done, which is fine, but it's just something I really shouldn't have to do. And you put in a work order, and then you're trying to figure out why the work order is complete, and you find out there's a whole new group of maintenance people. So yeah, they never got that work order. So they have no clue what's going on. So that's been my fun-filled rant of the week in regards to that. So yeah, that's what it is. That's my day. And also, you guys didn't like my dad joke, that bad dad joke of the week. I thought it was hilarious.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I showed it to one of the guys, one of the other coaches on the basketball team. I said, In the world of PC correct, in the world of political correctness, I said we have to have friends that are willing to send us jokes that just are not appropriate, but they still make you laugh because it's important to laugh. So I showed him the joke, and he said that is really. He's like, "You're right. That is not right, but it is really funny."
Another one I heard, over the day, and I will say this one. Um, it has to do with stress balls. So
Oh, jeez.
it's, and I apologize. Women are lovely, and it has to do with women have the best stress relieving balls of all time, but unfortunately, they're attached to the biggest stressors, the biggest stress giving people in the world. I might have had that a little. I might have messed that up a little verbatim, but that was kind of the gist of the joke. Dark, bad dad jokes. Yeah, I keep finding this. I saw one, and I keep getting all these other ones, and I was like, wow. And you want to know the funny part about some of these? Some of these I've heard before, and I'm like, where have I heard these before? Like these, and I was like, did I see these like in other like social media posts? No. Do you know where some of these people are getting them from? They're creating their own videos. They're getting them from Grand Theft Auto. And I was like, oh, that's right. So have either one of you played Grand Theft Auto before? You have? So when you play Grand Theft Auto, for people who haven't, as you're driving around in your car, you have radio stations. And during the radio stations at the commercial, and there's a female who comes on and talks about all these random jokes or just spews out facts or these comments. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this is why some of these sound familiar, because people are taking these jokes and creating memes with them in videos and posting them on social media now. And they're coming from Grand Theft Auto. I was like, damn. Like I played that game a lot, and I'm like, wow. So I went and played the game the other day because I haven't played it in like a year. And I'm like, I'm driving around doing my thing in the car. And, you know, I was working on a mission. And I'm like, and here she is saying some of this shit. I was like, that is fucking hilarious. I'm like, this is funny. This is really funny. Yeah, some that's where people are getting it from. It's like it triggered my brain. And I'm like, oh, that's where it
Yeah.
comes
Some
from.
people are
Well,
a
then.
little upset that there hasn't been a new Grand Theft Auto game in a while, evidently.
Well, six is supposed to be coming out, but I did read an article that there might be a delay now, which has upset some fans. So I'll have to find that article and see what that's about. I still play the game from time to time. Like I said, it's been a year since I played it, but um the actual game itself, but there's an online version too that you can play. I played that a couple times on and off, which is kind of fun too. We do some cool
Yeah.
stuff in there. That's just a game of anything goes. It's kind of crazy. 100%.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned the radio stations. From the little bit that I played at Grand Theft Auto 3, because I never made a tremendous amount of progress in it back in the day. I always like turning on, I think it was like the talk radio station.
Yeah, the Grand Theft Auto 5 has the talk radio station. They talk about some
Yeah, but it was
even
like,
more crazier shit than version, yeah, than 3 did. Yeah.
yeah, it was like the on the Grand Theft 3 talk radio version, it was like a call-in show kind of thing. And there's like other characters that you would encounter throughout the game who are like calling into the station. Like I remember the one mobster who had like the mother issue
Oh, yes.
was like calling in, and like every time like the host tried to say something to help him out, the guy would get all of a sudden, "What are you talking about? What are you saying, man? What are you doing?" And then like he claimed his name was something else, but then like when he was recounting a story, he used his real name. And then like when the guy said, "Well, Tony," he's like, "What do you mean, Tony? What are you saying Tony for? I'm not Tony."
Yes, yes. Some of those, it's
You need to have your hood up.
they have some of that stuff too on the new stuff too, Grand Theft Auto 5. That's why I always put on the radio station. I know some people don't like listening to the radio while they're playing the game, but I'm driving around. Sometimes I would just drive around and just listening to some of the music or just listening to the talk show stuff because some of the stuff is so hilarious. I'm like, where did they had to take some really they had to take some time to come up and have writers to write some of the shit they did
Oh yeah.
for Grand Theft Auto's radio because it's funny stuff. I think that's kind of the small part of Grand Theft Auto that makes that game that game.
For sure.
Fun times.
So, did either of you stay awake and watch the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight?
Ooh, we want to talk about that? Great. I did. I
So
watched the whole thing.
because of the fact that it was on Netflix, and I was like just going to bed at that time, so I put it on my phone and was like laying in bed watching it. I did actually watch it, yeah.
Yes, I was up with an upset stomach. My belly hurt. I shouldn't have ate the food that I ate it with the time that I ate it.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Getting old there,
So,
buddy. Oh,
so
the
I
age.
treated
Timing
myself. I
is
treated
everything.
myself.
Timing
So
is
I treated
everything.
myself to a Bacon King from Burger King.
Oh,
Let's just say I've eaten that sandwich many a times before, uh, and it's a like I said, it's a treat because I do not have fast food very often. But yeah, I shouldn't have ate it at almost 8:30 at night. That was the mistake portion. My stomach was like, "No, you bad. That make you hurt now." I was like, "Oh God."
you'll be sitting on the porcelain toilet, porcelain crown
Um,
for a while, bitch.
but yeah, so I'm laying on the couch watching this match, and I fell asleep at parts and times because it was so entertaining. I just fell asleep. It was just that good. Um, but yeah, that. Ugh. As I go back and watch snippets that people are putting on social media and stuff like that, I really feel like Tyson did not try and punch Jake Paul at certain times. Like he definitely held a punch back here or there. Now, how often that happened, I don't know. And maybe it's just when you take a snippet like that, it's easier to see and you can, analyze it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But how did he go? Like, and I get it. Jake Paul's much faster than him, no doubt about that. But when he did have the opportunity and he would have been within his range to hit Paul, why did he not throw a punch? Was he unbalanced? Was he, not able to feel like he could? What was going on? Because, like, I don't expect, if anybody expected Mike Tyson to come out and fight like he was in his freaking 20s, you're absolutely insane in the brain. All
Correct.
right. But what we saw in his training leading up to that fight,
Is why
he
people
was
thought
throwing
that.
he was still throwing punches at a fever rate. Like he was throwing fast punches. Like it wasn't slow. It may not have had the same speed he had at 20. There's no doubt about that. It's not going to have the same um, effect as it did when he was 20 because of his muscular build. I mean, he still looks jacked, but
Yes.
just the overall muscular build is very different from a almost 60-year-old to a 20-year-old, regardless of how big you are. But there was definitely opportunities, and I'd like to go back and watch the match again, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Like I will never bring myself to be able to like rewatch it because it was just that bad. I definitely feel there was opportunities Tyson could have unloaded one and probably hit him and
Hmm.
didn't. And I saw somebody put together a compilation of Jake Paul's other fights. The very first fight that he had, the dude blatantly drops his freaking protective side. Like you see, he sees the punch coming in and he drops his hand like this. Why would you ever drop your hand protecting your face when you see a punch coming in? Like that just to me tells me that Jake Paul in a majority of his fights at some point in time had a discussion with the other fighter and said, "Hey, listen, this is for entertainment purposes only. You know, I'm not looking to hurt you. You shouldn't be looking to hurt me. You're going to lose this fight." Like it's predetermined like wrestling is. And I'm sorry, you cannot continue to have boxing matches and say they're boxing matches if they're going to be predetermined. And I don't know if that's really what it is, but it really does look that way.
The Tyson fight, yes. It definitely, I felt that the whole time watching. And the way people, a lot of people wanted Tyson to win because when they released all of his training videos, especially the one like 14 days before the fight, he's bobbing and weaving. He's got great footwork. His legs are good. He's pounding the bags, right? And then you see what you saw Friday night. And he had a knee wrap on. So yeah, it looked like he had tweaked something in his knee, which is going to hinder up any boxer. But it just I did feel like there was times where he could have, you know, got a couple more shots off instead of landing like 9 power punches, or 9 shots total. It felt off. Jake Paul felt a little bit off in regards to this. I've seen all of Jake Paul's fights. Ooh, excuse me. I burped if you heard that. Sorry. So to me, here's my thing. I've never liked the Paul brothers, period, from a long time ago. I respect what Logan does in WWE. He's very athletic and he takes it seriously to be a pro wrestler. Great. Jake Paul's had some his own personal issues, drugs, all alcohol, all that shit. And boxing has kind of put him on a different path for the better. Great. Kudos to you getting your life together, wanting to make the boxing more popular because MMA's kind of taken over the limelight from boxing, right? No issues with that, so on and so on. I've watched all of his fights, and here's my problem. You want to be taken seriously as a boxer, but yet the majority of your fights have been against ex-MMA people, right? Yeah, you knocked out a couple of them, but some of them had some amateur backgrounds, some of them didn't. Some of them were very good strikers within the MMA world, but that also doesn't always translate properly from MMA back to boxing and vice versa.
Not at all.
I mean, can it? Yes, it absolutely can, but it's going to take time for that to happen. It's not something where you're going to train in one fight, you're going to get it, and it's going to be
Right. And we
there.
saw that with Conor McGregor and Floyd
Floyd May
Mayweather.
that fight, that fight frustrated me because I felt like there were a couple rounds that McGregor should have won, and it's just because it was Floyd, they gave him the rounds, and I was like, oh, there was some little. I watched that fight like 8 times. To me, I would have points wise, I would have given it to McGregor and not Floyd Mayweather, just based off certain things I saw. Um, but this is just it's like Paul is a good fighter, shown improvement, and the one guy he legitimately fought that was a boxer, he lost
Yeah,
to that guy. He
yeah,
didn't.
Fury.
Yeah. And Fury's not a great boxer. I would
No,
say he's maybe like, I would say he's a little bit above average boxer. He still
but he's
has,
still early in his career too. That
yes,
Fury.
but he is still in the professional ranks, you know? I think what was Jake Paul's last match before Tyson? Mike Perry or something like that?
Yeah, the
Okay.
fill-in match that he had.
Yeah, that wasn't going to go in Mike Perry's way either, and where his back. No, it's just you're picking. And here's my problem. He's called out Canelo before, bro. If I was Canelo, I wouldn't touch Jake Paul with a 10-foot pole because seriously, I'm not going to. If I'm Canelo and where Canelo has been in his boxing career, I'm not coming down to that level to fight Jake Paul. I'm not doing it. I don't care how much money it makes. Canelo doesn't need a payday. He doesn't need money. He's fucking rich. He's smart with that shit. He knows what he's doing. Like he's wants to do championship fights, and things of that nature. He's not gonna fight Jake Paul.
Yeah,
Um,
Jake Paul needs, if he wants to be taken seriously, he needs to stop organizing his own fights like the way he does, and he
and
needs to get into the professional ranks and actually work in the professional ranks that way instead
and
of making up these matches that he wants to fight just because he wants a huge payday. And I get it, everybody wants a huge payday, but you get that huge payday in the
which they're
boxing world
getting.
by coming up through the ranks and fighting to get to that top tier fight, not
And
just by making whatever fights you want to make.
and he's making money doing this in a very unorthodox way. Kudos to him for doing it because he's making a shit ton. Like he made 40 million Saturday. Tyson made 20 on this. They had that whole fucking stadium pretty much sold out.
Yeah.
Um, they made a ton of money on there. I didn't need to see, Papa Jones on there and fucking Michael Irving. Didn't need to see those two show up and doing
And Rosie
commentary.
Perez ringside. Like
That was okay.
She
Roy
was
Jones Jr.
commentating.
She was
Yeah, she
commentating.
had a lot to say. Let me tell you,
Um,
she was
I
fantastic. to
I
listen
like
to.
Rosie Perez. I mean, I think her
So do
connection
I.
was more towards, she's known Mike Tyson for a long time. So I think that was part of it. I always like Roy Jones Jr. is one of my favorite boxers of all time, so I'm cool with that.
Roy
And
Jones
what
Jr. could not stop saying, "I don't like his legs. I don't like his legs.
I
I don't like his legs."
know.
Like, what do you not like about his legs? It took him till like round 5 or 6 to be like, his legs look wobbly. They don't look as muscular. They don't look as sturdy as they used to. Now we know why you don't like his legs. Before
Could
that,
have
he just
said
kept on
that in
saying, "I don't
round
like his legs."
3. But yeah, I mean, Jake Paul is putting this on to get more fans to watch boxing because of how, it's
Right.
not viewed as a top premier, you know, fighting event like MMA is now, how it's taken over. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
I'm still
He
not,
essentially did what Don King was trying to do, but with the promotion of boxing, make it
yeah,
a spectacle.
yes.
It's just that Jake Paul had the resources to do it, and Don King did not.
Yeah, I mean, Don King was using Tyson and a couple other boxers to do it, and it worked for a while, but he was very corrupt, and in a lot of ways, he was doing shit too, which cost him, you know. And you're going to, and the other thing too is people are going to spend money for this or going to spend money to go to these events because there is a lot of people who don't like the Paul brothers. So
Yeah,
they
they want to
want
see
to see
Jake Paul
Jake
get
Paul
knocked
get
the hell
his,
out.
yes, they want to see his ass get handed to him. So they're going to spend the money. And to him, it's fine. You love me or you don't. Neither one of them care. Like they don't care who loves them or who doesn't. And you hate me, but you're still going to spend money to see if I get my
Yeah.
ass handed to me. And that's the thing. And now here's the other thing. Once again, Jake Paul just called out Conor McGregor. If you're not going to step back in the MMA ring, why don't you come box me? Or then I think challenge them as well to an MMA fight. No, bro. You can
No, you don't
train
want
for
to.
6 months in MMA. You're not going to beat one of these fucking professionals. Now you're stepping into their world. Good luck with that. Because now they can kick you. Now they can knee you in the face. And now they can do a lot of fucking shit they couldn't do to you in a boxing ring. And that's a whole nother world, brother.
Yeah. Who was the guy with the glasses? I know he was a WWE announcer, and
Oh,
they let
that's
him go.
I always fuck up his name.
Manello, is that his last name?
Arello or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Pat,
But
you can
Mara Ranallo, right?
Ronaldo,
yeah,
yeah. You
Mauro.
can
Yeah,
fix our pronunciation because we're horrible at that. So
Yeah,
thank you.
but
I've never been a big fan of his, so
well, he got fixated, and I don't know if that's just kind of because we know he has had mental health issues in the past. Like that was why he essentially got let go from WWE. From what my understanding of was, is but he got fixated on the whole freaking biting the glove thing too. Remember, he's biting
No.
his glove. He's biting his glove. I'm like, dude, we get it. He's biting his glove. Like, can you drop it now? Like he said that for 6, 7 rounds. Like he's biting
Yes.
his glove. Yes, he is. And then Roy Jones Jr. He's like, I think he's having a problem with his mouth guard. He's like, no, I don't know if you know the history, but Tyson often bit his glove when he was in matches. I'm like, who
Yes.
cares?
He bit his gloves when he had the exhibition fight against Roy Joe Jr. like 4 years ago. We did the same shit, just not as much. Um, yeah, I listen, the whole event, the first match was a joke. The first fucking match was a hysterical joke. Like the social media guys, it was fucking a train wreck. I posted it on Facebook. I
Oh,
fucking
they were social
ridiculous.
media guys. I didn't see I saw half of the women's fight and then the Jake Paul fight.
The next two fights, um, Barros versus Ramos, right? Barros is a champion. Ramos is trying to get to that. Ramos is a very good boxer, and I don't want to say Barros um underestimated Ramos, but he didn't fight as well as I thought he was going to. And Ramos took control like middle to end of the fight, where there was some rounds where you could have chose either one. You know what I mean? It could have went both ways. Barros ended up winning, which I kind of see. I was fine with that. I went back and actually rewatched that fight. I think I still might have given Barros the edge by 1 round. But I could see what people would have chose Ramos. The match of the night was the women's match. Taylor versus Siriano. Those two killed it. Um, but at the end of the day, I don't know how the judges scored that. I'm sorry, the men's match ended up in a draw. That's right. He kept the titles. I was correct, but it was a draw, which I don't know what the judges. I don't know what the fuck the judges were watching. Someone should have won. Like I understand there was a lot of close rounds, so they were given like 10-10 rounds. They weren't giving a winner to anybody like that. So it was a little frustrating um for that aspect. But the women's match, Siriano should have won that match. Don't care about the headbutt. Let's put the headbutt part aside. She dominated from round 5 to 10. And I
And that
was
was the
saying
person that was headbutting, the one that you're saying dominated.
no, Siriano's the one that got headbutted.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
My only issue, like, I understand you have to when you watch boxing, there's a lot of fighters who lean in with their head, and people say it's dirty. I don't know. I don't think it's dirty. You could tell when someone's doing it intentionally, and when they start doing it intentionally, then you can call them dirty. But when it's their normal boxing style, they're like, oh, they've done it to other people, and Siriano's never been cut before in a match ever until she fought Taylor the first time. Okay, and your point is what? Siriano Taylor is a type of person where she puts your gloves up, head down. She likes to be inside, going at it. There's a lot of men boxers who've done that, have that same specific style, and have headbutt people. She's, I went back and found Taylor matches. Yeah, I've seen it fight against other females where there's been incidental contact, maybe a small little cut, but it happened like once, maybe twice. But I watched some other matches where she's still doing her style and no headbutts ever happen ever. So it's a little I don't like when they start calling out people saying that they're dirty. She's not a dirty fighter. That's her fighting style. Your fighter fights in a different way. She has
She
great
definitely
stand.
let her get too close at times.
Yeah, and Sirion has great stamina. She is phenomenal with that. She throws a lot of punches. But here's the other aspect where I'm not a big fan of. Like people talk about when they talk about scoring rounds, you got to be active. Okay, you have to be active, which I agree with. But when you're active, what as you being active, is it doing anything substantial to your opponent? Is your activity being productive? Is what I'm trying to say. And if you're just throwing a whole fucking shitload of punches that you throw 60 punches in a round and you only land 4 or 5 of those that are legitimate power punches or punches that landed with with productivity or a significance out of those 60, I don't care how active you are. Because some judges are like, oh, they're active, more active. Taylor could have landed 10 power punches and significant punches, and Siriano could have landed 5, but she out punched her opponent by like 50 punches, and people were going to give it to Siriano because she was more active. But her productivity was way lower than Taylor was. And that's where like I don't agree with a lot of
Yeah.
judges and how they judge fights because you're going to be active great, but you better make it count. You better be landing some legitimate fucking shots in there, body shots, uppercuts, right hooks, whatever the case. You better be making it a productive round. Otherwise, I'm not. You're half your shit's being blocked. I'm not going to give you a round, especially when the opposing person's playing defense and then boom, boom, counter punching and doing all that shit, tagging you. I'm not giving you the round just because you're more active. And some judges do that way more than they should. But
My
Siriano
only
definitely
issue,
should have won that fight. She should have won that fight by at least, I would say, by at least. I told Marlon, I texted Marlon, I was like, yo, Soriano should have won that fight by at least 3 rounds. Say maybe 4 rounds, but at least between 3 to 4 rounds. She should have won that fight.
my biggest problem with that fight is there was definitely one for sure legit headbutt that she did. Whether it was intentional or not, it's hard. You don't know the intention behind it, but she definitely headbutted her once for sure. And there was probably, as I was watching it, there was probably at least two other times where she definitely came in real low
Mhm.
and
And
then
then up.
came up with her head, and you to me it looked like she was trying to make a head but like contact with her head to drive her back, get her to drop her hands, and then she could unload on her. To me,
That is
I
a
understand there's
technique.
different fighting styles, but that's a little dirty. Like you're. It's one thing to go in with your head and then try and unload. It's another thing to come in with your head and then come up with your head to try and make room for you to be able to unload. That to me is a little dirty style of boxing. It wasn't all the time, but you're
I can
right.
see their
There are
complaint.
boxers lead with their head to try and take the brunt of any punches that are coming in on this part because this is the hardest part of your skull.
Or the
I'm not gonna
chin or
take
the
a
side of the face or whatever, the cheekbones, headbutts from there. Like I understand Soriano's side of it too, because that's our style. But you decided to have the rematch.
yeah,
So, because you guys had a great first fight and you had a great second fight,
yeah.
you
She could
know
have
her.
jabbed her more to keep her at that distance instead of letting her come in that close. She could have
Yes,
used that jab
because
more.
and she could have moved more because Soriano has longer arms and she's like she's a fury boxer, man. She's just throwing, which is good. And she uses that to keep Taylor off balance, which she did, but she let Taylor get in up close too much. That
Yeah,
was
there
the big
wasn't a lot of
she
dancing. They pretty much stood like toe to toe and
yes.
just like kind of swapped punches. And it was
And it's
crazy. I was like,
and listen
damn.
and as you know, in the boxing world, when you fight somebody that's like that, you got to have a game plan. Like, listen, this person, if I tag them, they're going to clinch up, they're going to come up, they're going to kind of bull rush me, and they're going to try. They want to fight inside. They're going to want to fight inside all the time, and that's what Taylor was trying to do. I think and whatnot. So, and she was effective. The headbutts kind of cost, were a detrimental. The one headbutt though, I think where she got the point deduction, they showed the replay and it was like nothing there. I just think the ref was in a bad spot and a bad angle and thought it was more than what it was. And he decided
Hmm.
to deduct a point, and there was I think he deducted a point for both of them. I don't know what the hell Soriano did to fucking get a point deduction either. I could be wrong, but I was just kind of like, what the fuck's going on in this round? Um, I just don't like when a boxer fights in that style that we're automatically going to dub them as a dirty boxer because that's where her corner was trying to do. Always dirty. She's dirty. She's dirty. Da 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 da.
It's like what they
Bro,
did to. Now, I'm not a fan of Mayweather, but it's like what they did to Mayweather in his later career too. They essentially, without calling
you
him
just
a
did this.
coward,
You just did
they
this the
were
whole
essentially
time.
calling him a coward. He never really went in at anybody. He just counterpunch, 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 and that's how he
Defense
won
and
his matches.
counterpunch. Yeah.
Yeah, like yes, that is a style of boxing, and yes, he essentially perfected it.
Yep. And it's a style that people do not like because it doesn't show your true ability.
Right.
It
But
doesn't show a preferred it doesn't show a good skill set.
but there's ways to counter that counter punch boxing. Like somebody like Taylor, if you have a man that fights like that, you can get if you're good about it and are effective about it, you could probably get in on Mayweather where he can't get away from you. And he's got to actually fight in that because you get him into a corner, boom, now he's in a corner.
You go
You
back,
unload a couple punches.
speaking of Mayweather, to go back to a fight that wrong decision by Bonehead at the time, but the fight that he should have lost, or I wouldn't say should have, that Mayweather could have lost was his fight against Oscar De La Hoya. If you go back and watch that fight, the first part of that fight, De La Hoya is beating him in points, in rounds. He's actually frustrating Mayweather to a certain extent. But for whatever reason, in Oscar's head, he wanted to knock him out. So then, as you notice, his fighting style changes and he's trying to knock him out. And then Floyd Mayweather comes back and does what he does to win the fight. And
Hmm.
then you played right in the hands of Floyd Mayweather. But if you would have stayed to what you were doing, listen to your corner, instead of going out and trying to knock the guy out, you would have gave Floyd Mayweather a loss because he was not the Floyd Mayweather. He was not having a Floyd Mayweather fight.
No, and that's the thing. Like some guys, like everybody can be knocked out. Like I would definitely say that anybody could be knocked out.
Correct.
Just some guys are not as susceptible to it as other guys. Like some guys have what they call the glass jaw, and other guys really it takes a lot of beating to knock them down
Yeah.
and knock them out. And I think Mayweather is probably one of those. You don't box for that long and be able to take that many punches and not be knocked out. Maybe knocked
Yeah.
down, but not knocked out.
Yeah. And Mayweather's not taking a lot of during a normal boxing career, Mayweather's not taking a lot of punches. Period. I mean, he perfected the defense and perfected the counterpunch, and yeah, that's why fans were just like, yeah, you're undefeated, but just because you're undefeated, we don't consider you the greatest of all time because you really didn't do what the greats did to become part of the greats. Your record shows undefeated, but let's go back and look at your fights and let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah,
Each is to their own.
where's the fight where he looks like he was in a war? How many fights did he have
Earlier
where
in
he
his
looks like
career, and that was about it because you didn't see that shit from the middle to the end of his career. Not even
right where
close.
most people know the parts of his career that people know he didn't to go through wars.
Nope.
Everything like you said was a defense counterpunch type of boxing match, and for me as somebody who has watched boxing and enjoyed what I've watched of boxing, I want to see guys throw punches and I want to see them get in the mix. Like to me, that is, I know there's different styles. I understand it. I'm not saying it, but for me, that is more entertaining to watch than watch a guy chase somebody around the ring and hope that he can hit him and not get counterpunch. That is not as fun to watch. And like I said, I understand it. It's a boxing style. Everybody's got their own style. But if you want people to watch boxing, you have to give them a reason to watch boxing. And Floyd Mayweather, the only reason people are watching him is the hope that he freaking loses.
Yeah,
That's the only reason they were ever watching him. Not because they were like, oh, he's the most entertaining boxer of all time.
No.
They watched to hope in hopes he loses.
He had his fans, his loyal fans. Kudos. He made a shit ton of money in boxing as well on a lot of these fights. But once again, he made a lot of that money because people wanted to see his lose. People wanted to see him lose a decision or get knocked out. There was a point where people were like, I hope he gets knocked out. Please, somebody knock him out. Unfortunately.
And the match that it should have happened that should have happened years before it actually happened would have been the Manny Pacquiao Mayweather match, which should have happened years before it did. And I know we talked about that before.
Yeah, the whole fiasco, that was just a fucking train wreck and a joke. Just literally. Yeah, and that still frustrates me to this day in regards to that.
Right, because they got Pacquiao at the time where they wanted Pacquiao. They didn't get him at the height of his career. They got an older Pacquiao. They got a slightly injured Pacquiao from his training sessions, and they didn't want to give him time to heal. And
nope.
They got Pacquiao exactly how they wanted, and they can still hold it over the boxing community's head as, well, I fought him, and I beat him, so what are you going to say? You can't say anything. No, we can still say something because you chickened out, and I'll say chickened out, of boxing him when he wanted to, when he was already ready to box you by coming up with every excuse under the book to say, this is why I don't want to fight him. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. Well, if he's passing all what the boxing commission requires, then you should have no problem fighting him. Because you had no problem fighting anybody else that was passing what the boxing commission requires. You wanted to add extra stipulations on top of what they asked for.
Yep.
So
100%.
Screw you, buddy. All right, Darth Pat, do you want to talk anything? You've been awfully quiet. We've been talking about subjects that you are not. Well, I shouldn't say that. You were talkative during our wrestling talk, but you've been awfully quiet since then.
Well, my impressions of that fight was, first of all, I saw somebody post afterwards in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, like, was saying like, this is why boxing is so boring, and I was just like, oh, because I remember boxing when it was great, so it's like, dude, it wasn't that much different from that. I was like, this was a boring fight.
Yes.
Because the Jake Paul Tyson fight was the only one that I watched. I didn't watch.
I think they threw in one of the rounds. I think there was 4 punches thrown.
Yeah. Here's what it looked to me. Tyson looked like he tried to be semi-aggressive in the first couple of rounds and then just like really seemed to stop throwing punches. The biting the glove thing, yeah, I was like, is that like a nervous tick? It's like, what's going on there? And then as the fight went on, it became pretty obvious that Jake Paul didn't want to knock him out.
Hmm.
You probably could have. So and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I was like, it's a term that I hear used in wrestling a lot. All sizzle, no steak. That's what
Yes.
it was. It was a shit ton of hype and everything, but then the bell rang. So it was
Oh,
kind of
I
a kind of a
need.
waste of time.
I want to show you
Like
guys.
I'm definitely glad I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it was on free on Netflix. That was kind of nice.
Now, of course, here's the thing to kind of maybe tie it back to wrestling for a minute. So I guess there were a lot of streaming issues from what I heard. Now,
Oh
I
my
did not experience
God.
Yes.
any. I did not experience any. When I was watching it, it streamed just fine, and I was only on my phone, so maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know, but
Oh, I was on my phone too for a while and it happened to me. I was pissed. So everyone's
yeah.
complaining about it. It didn't happen to me until the women's fight. And then all of a sudden
Mhm.
it started happening. And I'm like,
Yeah, so everybody, of course, now is already having a little bit of a freak out. Oh my God, what's gonna happen when Raw's on?
I know. I know.
I'm
They
like,
better.
let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Raw. Do you see the logo that they revealed?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they revealed the Raw logo. Looks pretty cool. Different.
I don't think I did, but
Yeah.
I'm paying attention, so.
But yeah, yeah, it was it's pretty cool. I mean, nothing spectacular or whatever the case may be, but it's a different logo, which you kind of knew was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But um we'll see what happens when Raw what goes on live. Because listen, wrestling has their followers. They're gonna follow professional wrestling whichever channel it's on, so they're gonna go. So January 6th, 2025, there's gonna be a shit ton of people on Netflix at 8 o'clock at night. And we will see. We will see how the feed goes.
Uh, I don't have, this sucks.
Netflix
I
better have some backup servers ready to go.
Yeah, this sucks. I don't have a freaking cord. There was a really funny cartoon meme about the Jake Paul Tyson fight. It's like how the Jake Paul Tyson fight will go, and it's just really, really funny. Um, I really want to play it for you. I just don't have a cord. Damn it.
Well, what in the blue blazes?
I know. I did not come prepared. Preparation H was not in hand.
Well, oh,
I
okay,
had to go with
okay.
preparation F.
Preparation.
Are,
Oh,
are you trying to make reference to like the joke that they did in Austin Powers? Is that where you're coming from?
Nope. Just making it up off the fly.
Oh, because the one of the Austin Powers movies, I don't remember if it was the second one or the third one, he was talking about like, preparations A through G were abysmal failures. But finally we had success with preparation H. And then, of course, Scott started mocking him and saying, like, oh, I'm sure preparation ass cream will be huge or something like
uh,
that. So,
All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna actually get a cord because I really gotta show you guys this. It's really funny.
well, if it's not really funny, we can hold it against you, and we will.
hmm. Oh, lovely logo we got to look at. Lovely. I still have to go to the store because I forgot something to put into my chili. Won't make me some chili today. Forgot an ingredient. So after this, I gotta go to the food store and get my ingredient to make my chili.
I've already been to one food store picking up my order, and now, of course, I have to go to another one.
And then start
You
making
know
my
what? You really
chili.
need to stop complaining about my logo.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is fun.
All right.
You're that
Listen,
kind of stupid.
I'm not a fan of the color green unless it's military green. And then every time I keep seeing your logo, my team plays the other team that has a shitty ass green color too from the north. I gotta listen to that shit today too.
All right, here we go.
The Fudge Packers.
Oh.
As we
Okay, why is
patiently
this?
wait the anticipation of this video.
I know. What the hell?
Jeez, all these people on this Giants Facebook page taking objection to me saying that drafting Shader Sanders would be the worst thing the Giants could do.
Oh, he's going to Dallas.
No, but
Eh,
just real quick, as Jeremy's pulling this up, like to one person I said, like, yeah, he may be the most talented quarterback, but the circus that he's going to bring with him isn't worth it. And the guy's like, well, he didn't ask for that. That's all the media doing it. And I'm like, yeah, right. How's that going to fucking change in New York?
Very true.
So, idiots. I haven't even bothered responding to anyone. I was like, fine, let you pile on. I don't fucking care.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yes.
This
All
looks
right.
interesting.
Did I optimize for video?
You better have.
I hope so. All right, we'll see. Oh, not that. There you go. Okay.
Ugh.
But we cannot hear nothing.
Yes, we cannot hear nothing.
All right, gosh darn it, this stupid thing.
If I can't hear nothing, I'm not gonna learn nothing.
All right.
Nothing will come from nothing.
I think it's the share screening advanced options you need to do to make the audio.
Yeah, I have it set for audio. All right, let's try this again.
Take two.
Quiet on the set.
All right, it says that it's sharing sound. So we're going to see. We're going to try this one more time. Maybe I need to turn it up.
No bueno.
No bueno? What the hell? Okay, I got one other thing. Let's do this. We'll save the video. And then I'll just play it from here. Can you hear it now?
No
Well,
bueno.
Nothing's playing, but I didn't hear anything when it was.
This is ridiculous.
Fans, we are technically inclined from time to time, so just to FYI, this does happen.
Yeah, and I can't turn the volume up unless I stop sharing. All right. Because I
Take
can
two
hear it in
has
my
failed.
headset.
Yeah, we couldn't hear nothing. It's okay.
It is not okay. It is never okay.
It happens. Ooh. Take three.
Take three. It's getting better every time.
As I wait with anticipation, I am intrigued.
All right, let's see.
No sound.
Well, that is just unfortunate. All right. Well,
Okay,
you
so
know
the
what?
gist
That's
the gist of it is the person was saying that Tyson was going to knock him out.
yes and no. That is sad. I don't know why that is doing that. I don't know
Yeah.
if I got an audio setting messed up or what. but that is very disappointing. Yeah, well, what are
It's
you gonna do?
okay.
I just want to say this to anybody who thought, like, again, I think, yeah, a lot of people wanted Tyson to win
Yeah.
because they don't like Jake Paul, to which, of course, I would want to kind of remind you, hey, people, Mike Tyson's kind of a bad person, too. It's like, but again, I just don't know why you think a 58-year-old guy is going to knock out a guy who's in his 20s. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the thing that was reminding me was the Muhammad Ali Larry Holmes fight from 1980, which was documented in one of the earliest ESPN 30 for 30s.
Oh, yeah.
Ali was clearly past his prime, was already starting to show signs
Mhm.
of decline physically and mentally, in a lot of different ways. Like he didn't have the Parkinson's yet, but it was kind of apparent that he was on the road to it. But there were people who just assumed because he was Muhammad Ali, he was going to win. And as soon as the fight started, it became apparent that Holmes could have beaten the shit out of him if he had wanted to. But Holmes didn't want to because he
Yeah.
had been Ali's sparring partner for years. And they showed footage like afterwards where Holmes was crying in his dressing room saying, I can't believe I had to do that to him and stuff like that. So it was like, it's not the same thing, but it just like there was a bit of a parallel to me. It was saying like, yeah, this tremendous fighter who is unfortunately now washed up and over the hill. And Tyson's obviously a lot older now than Ali was in that fight.
Yeah.
He's not going to knock out this younger, quicker guy. It just is not going to happen.
Just like, Evander Holyfield fought, some people forget that he fought several years ago at his age. He fought a former MMA guy who was in his 40s, semi amateur boxing when he was in his young years, but Vitor Belfort, and he made Evander Holyfield look old in their match. Like he had hit Holyfield. Holyfield was stumbling, went into the ropes, had trouble getting himself back up, and then boom, 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 he was down again. Yeah, it was just kind of like, it's sad to see stuff like that. It really is.
Oh no!
I'm gonna try it one more time.
Jake 4.
Just you and me now, Logan.
You got it.
No rules. No one to save you. I'm Jake. Logan's my brother.
I gotta rewind it because it's too far into it now.
Let's make it look convincing. Oh, wait. What?
Oh, Mike lands a clean hit on Jake, and it looks like it hurt. Let's see how Jake responds. Oh, Jake's hairline is not like that.
Just you and me now, Logan. No rules. No one to save you. I'm Jake. Logan's my brother.
My God! It's Jake's brother, WWE superstar and piece of shit Logan Paul. I got you, bro.
No, my dick, Mike, please! Was that convincing enough for you, Logan? Yeah, perfect. Okay, now go ahead. Oh, no. Ah, it hurts. Ouchie.
He did it! He actually did it! Jake Paul is your winner!
Oh, that was funny.
I mean, that wasn't incredibly far off now, was it?
It would have been awesome though if Logan did come down and jump off the top rope.
Oh my
And
God, that
lands
was
on
hilarious.
Tyson's head and breaks his back. Yeah.
I love the fact that they threw in whoever did that animation for that cartoon threw in the Mike Tyson's Punch Out reference, showed him doing the super uppercut. Like that's awesome.
No, that was hilarious. That was done well. That was funny.
Yeah,
I like
I saw that first thing when I woke up this morning. I was like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, that was super
Oh,
funny.
man. All right,
Look
now
at
that
you,
we were able to
superstar
get that
Logan
work.
Paul, a piece of shit. And the funny part is they had him kissing the Pokemon card because he does have like some rare, expensive Pokemon card or whatever. So that was funny too.
Yeah, it's probably like I've
Oh.
seen people with like it's a special edition Charizard card, I think, like that they only
Yeah.
made like 7 of or some shit like that.
Yeah, yep. Oh, that was funny. That is hilarious.
All right, I think that's a good note to end our day on.
I think so too.
So
Yeah.
we will.
I
So
got
we're gonna
nothing
sign
else,
off. And we're
so.
gonna say thank everybody for watching. We appreciate you tuning in.
Else.
Yeah, we have nothing else for you today. We're running out of ideas. And thank goodness I finally got my audio to work. I think I actually realized what I did wrong, and it was I forgot to, as I switched to the proper share, I didn't realize that the audio share went off. It changed, so I was like, oh, let me try putting it actually on. So, my senile ass didn't recognize that was changing. So
It's all
we
good.
thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. We love all you guys. Keep tuning in. We'll keep turning out content for you guys. Hopefully everybody enjoys it like we enjoyed talking about it. And with that, we hope that you stayed with us to the end and finished with us.